Analysis now from Dipti. She's looking through the newspapers for us. Dipti, you're starting with reactions, aren't you, to the UN findings about the death of the Saudi journalist Jamal Khashoggi?
Yeah, pretty damning conclusion from that 100-page report from the UN, which urged that Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman be investigated over the brutal murder of Jamal Khashoggi in the Saudi consulate in Istanbul last year. The UN calling his death a, quote, international crime, saying he was the victim of a deliberate, premeditated execution for which the Saudi kingdom is responsible. You see it on the front page of The Guardian there. Riyadh has called the UN report baseless and full of contradictions, and the Saudi standpoint is what we're getting from the Arab News, the Saudi newspaper today, quoting the Saudi foreign minister saying the report is unfounded. The kingdom also says only its own judicial authorities are competent enough to investigate the murder, saying the report actually challenges the credibility of the UN.
You've spotted a piece, haven't you, by Khashoggi's fiancée. In fact, she's penned a pretty strong article. This is in the New York Times today. That's
right. It's a really moving article penned by Hatice Cengiz, who talks about her last days with Jamal Khashoggi, even though at the time she didn't know it will be her last days. You know, she says she was bridal shopping, planning her wedding. They were mapping their future out together in Washington. Last May, actually, she went to Washington to meet with Congress leaders 8 months after her fiancé was murdered. She says she was very moved by Congress members' reactions, memories of Khashoggi as well. But she writes also that she felt their sense of embarrassment that nothing had been done to bring his killers to justice. Washington has chosen not to use its strong ties and leverage with Riyadh to get the Saudis to finally reveal the truth.
Let's move to China now. Xi Jingping is meeting with the North Korean leader Kim Jong-un in an historic visit there.
That's right. He's the first Chinese leader to visit Pyongyang in nearly 15 years. The Korea Jungang Daily focusing on Xi's op-ed, a rare tribute that was published in the official North Korean newspaper yesterday, in which he praised Kim Jong-un, the North Korean leader, for his efforts at denuclearization. He also spoke about, quote, holding hands with Pyongyang in order to map out a plan to implement permanent stability in the region. That's what he wrote in that op-ed. The China Daily focusing on Xi's comments that China will, quote, resolutely support Kim in leading the party, building the North Korean economy and improving livelihoods, while the Global Times, the official Chinese government newspaper, says his visit will boost Chinese and North Korean ties.
And this next issue you can see there on the Global Times as well, actually, the focus of Donald Trump's announced meeting with Xi next week on the sidelines of the G20.
That's right. And in fact, it's a topic of this New York Times article that when I first read it, actually, I thought it was a parody because of the way it was written. But it's a really, I hope I haven't missed it. I hope it's not a parody. It's a really interesting article that notes that Xi's surprise visit to North Korea was followed by Trump's tweet that he would meet Xi on the sidelines of the G20 summit next week because the U.S. President, I quote, revels in his relationships with China and North Korea and can, quote, seem jealous when his two friends spend time with each other and he's not included. The latest in what this writer calls a dance of the trio of strong men with divergent interests that occasionally converge, even if Xi's quick-fire visit to North Korea was deliberately timed to avoid any thorny dates. For instance, June the 25th is when would mark the anniversary when North Korea invaded South Korea. October the 19th is when China came in on the side of North Korea in that war.
Get the three of them in bed together. Now, there were a heated debate in US Congress yesterday. This is about reparations for descendants of African-American slaves. Very sensitive issue, this, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's not a new idea. In fact, the idea for reparations has been submitted on several occasions in the past, but it's gaining momentum this year because it's the 400th anniversary of the arrival of the first African slaves on US soil. Ta-Nehisi Coates, who wrote an essay in 2014 in favor of reparations, so he's a well-known writer, he challenged Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell's assertion that no one alive today should be responsible for what happened in the past. The thorny issue has even found opposition amongst Democrat members. For The Atlantic, though, there is no middle ground. I quote, racist policies have historically compensated people for their whiteness and extracted wealth from people for their blackness. To oppose reparations is racist.
Finally, from Dipti, an article from the Daily Mail in the UK about what our sleeping position reveals about our personalities.
That's right. This study or research, if you like, has given us 6 positions. So from on the screen there, from left to right, you have baby, soldier, log, starfish, skydiver, and yearner. The most common position is the first one, the baby position. If you sleep in that fetal position, you're a natural warrior. You have a tough exterior, but a soft center that you want to protect.
Okay.
Which one are you, Stuart?
Well, I used to be number 4 because I used to sleep on my front, and then I started getting neck aches. So I think I'm number 3. Sometimes 2, sometimes 3, but usually 3. Between 2 and 3.
Okay, if you're 2, then you're a soldier. You're a strong, silent type, quiet and reserved with a love of structure. If you're 3, the log position, you're generally relaxed and positive, sociable, but can appear gullible. The one on the end, that's a really weird position, the one on the end. It's called the yearner position. It's very unusual, and usually people who sleep in that position are complex, cynical, slow and cautious when it comes to decision making, but stubborn once they've made up their minds. You also have the one next to it, the skydiver, which kind of looks like somebody who's skydiving. Open, confident, but a little bit brash and insensitive.
I think they should call the one on the right the belly flop.
The
looks
belly
like they're about
flop.
to flop into a swimming pool, doesn't it? Which one are you, Dipti?
I am fetal position, the number 1. The most common one. So
Was that cuddly
like
and
everybody
caring?
else. There's
Cuddly
nothing
and
special
caring,
about
wasn't
me.
it?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, it's definitely Dipti. Thanks a lot, Dipti, with the papers up for our study 4.